educational system in the United States is really screwed up. The truth is that I did 4 years at UCLA in political science, complete waste of time. Right? I could have gone straight to law school and a principal law firm and done it that way. That's the way we actually used to do these things. And that's the way they do these in other countries, right? There are other countries that do this where they say pick a track when you're 18, and now you're on that track, and you go to intern and you actually work in this job. People are not prepared for it. If you think you come out of college prepared for a job in modern American economy, it's complete nonsense. What prepares you for a job, as everyone who's ever held a job knows, is actually doing a job. And so what we have to do, there's still areas there's still trade schools where you're learning something. There's still areas of college that are useful. My wife's a doctor. She had to go through a biology major and then through med school in order to get that. You wouldn't want her coming straight out of college and operating on you. But I think that this is a very simple supply and demand issue. And by the way, the idea that poor people would not be able to get a loan to go major in a STEM major if they have great grades and good SAT scores, I don't think that's true at all. I mean, there are plenty of banks who people think that's a good bet. It's a good bet by a bank. And what we've had right now is a lot of basically subprime loans to bad college borrowers, and then there's not even any security. You can't repossess an education degree.
So that being said, I just graduated from high school, and for financial reasons, I'm heading to community college next year. Are you looking for interns?
So California has pretty strict laws on internships. We're trying to set up an internship program right now. If we do, I promise I will put that out there on Twitter. Remind me through the guy who asked me the question. We'll let it on top of a while.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me cut in front. I disagree with you. I wouldn't say I'm hostile. For someone who speaks a lot about morality, it seems like you don't. It seems like you avoid acknowledging Ayn Rand, and I'm wondering, would you agree to debate someone like Yaron Brook or any objectivist?
I'd love to talk to you Yaron Brook, sure. Okay, yeah, of course. I mean, I think that Ayn Rand's take on what drives capitalism is correct. Her take on applying that to human nature and its relationships between human beings, I think is more correct.
I think the debate should be ethical. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Ben Shapiro, not savage. Ordained. Science fiction, sir. I just wanted to start off with a couple of things before I ask that question, just because I have a chance to fight. Number one, I barely recognize you without sunglasses and joining your mouth. Let's do without sunglasses. Shout out to the life from New York. And second of all, I can't wait to watch you contribute to the extinction of the water buffalo. Very just flat out, anti-Semitic, just crazy. The Jewish question, Jewish media.
Oh my God, I know I've heard that. It's terrifying. When people say the Jews run the media, I confronted a 19-year-old about that a couple of weeks ago.
I've never said that.
I'm glad, but I mean it's creepy. It's disturbing. I don't know. We're gonna find out.
Okay, so first of all, on the check thing, I'm looking forward to having a productive discussion with him.
People keep asking about
That's the problem.
As far as the alt-right anti-Semitism, I mean, as somebody who received an inordinate amount of money from the alt-right in the last year,
I
the
want to ask about
anti-Defamation Committee, the #1 recipient of anti-Semitic tweets for journalism on the internet last year, and that was largely driven by the alt-right. I think that people need to understand what the alt-right actually is, and people think
Automation is setting a lot of people on.
Okay, I think a lot of these are hilarious.
Machines don't give a bosses don't give a shit if you're left or right. You're still human. You need to sleep. You need to poo. You need to eat. Machines don't, and if you keep machines just need power.
Yeah.
And machines do not discriminate left or right. I don't.
So you're worried about seeing a whole bunch of human beings that don't.
Not only that, but we as humans, we reproduce no matter what. We're just we're reproducing, population goes up, and jobs are going to go down because of automation. So what happens?
One thing
I just want his opinion.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was bad before timing. I'm curious what you
My view is there's going to be different economic needs that develop over time. There's going to be like social media is an entire new economy, and that's created a whole bunch of needs. Different economies will emerge that will employ people. That's what happens. That's what happens with market developments.
But then, what do you think of with the, I don't know what your views of climate change are, am I going to ask, but, the industry, solar panels, that's an open thing.
So what's my take on that? Or?
Yeah, it's an open industry.
It is, but there needs to be more innovation so that it's cost effective. Because right now, the problem is it still requires subsidies, which means it's not marketable. I think it's government.
Right. So I think it's more than a small movement. No, I think it's a very small movement. I think that when people suggest that it's taking over the Republican Party, I think that's nonsense.
No.
I think that there was an attempt by the alt-right to broaden itself out and pretend this was something that it wasn't. It was just people who were disrespecting the establishment. Okay, then I'd be alt-right. I think the establishment sucks.
Yeah.
And that's a Tea Party. But that's not what the alt-right is. And those are the people who are really driving a lot out of the right.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
Let's find out how well we do.
Hi, Ben. This is Warren. So you referenced the book by Cass at some point on the podcast, and I'm very interested in the book, and I'm just curious what your thoughts
So,
are.
are you in high school still? You graduated or?
No, I didn't go to college. I just have a high school diploma. I'm 27.
Oh, okay.
Small business owner.
Oh, what do you do?
I sell on eBay.
Okay.
So
Great.
I'm the last person to lose my job.
Right.
But I care about everybody else.
Fair enough.
What I'm saying is what happens. And then you as an employee, like the employees, they're going to get their jobs wiped out no matter what it is. There's robots that already do heart surgery.
Okay.
So
That's a good point.
what happens?
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, so what happens to everybody?
We'll just make a default on your card that you're going to be an organ donor now, and then you have to physically opt out of being an organ donor. So my problem with this general idea is that it assumes that your presets should be everyone's presets. I think that there's things that I'm thrilled to in that. I think everyone does, right? Like, so I tend to be somebody who thinks that we need more organ donation to access sexual libertarian. I think there should actually be organ markets in some cases. But the fact is that there are a lot of people who don't believe that and they shocked to work because they don't read the paperwork that when a loved one dies.
I'm not going to make it.
Okay.
Nice meeting you. What's your name?
So,
Killian.
Thank you.
I think the baseline should be non-interventionism.
Excuse me.
Not setting the preset of what I want it to be, because I don't get to control you. I mean, I think that's where libertarian paternalism comes into conflict, because even the idea they're going to set the presets is paternalistic in a non-libertarian fashion.
Thank you.
There, Ben. So I understand that you're an adequate opposer of socialism. My question to you is about socialist ideas that have worked in the past, such as Social Security or Medicare. I understand Social Security is a mess right now, but it has helped millions of Americans in the past. So do you think that we should banish socialist ideas in general in the United States, or limit it?
Banish. And the reason I say that is because so what socialism basically does is it takes the resources of a given society and it freezes them there and then it redistributes them. It doesn't account for growth. It doesn't allow for innovation and enlarging the pie. Socialism basically says, however much money is in the economy, it's unfair how it's distributed, take it, redistribute it, that's the end of it. The problem is once you do that, you get rid of the incentive to innovate and to build new things and create new services. So, of course it's true that if there are 5 of us in a room and I have $5 and nobody else has any money and I just give each person $1, then everybody in the room is better off except for me. That's true, but I now have no incentive to go out and make $5 more because you're all just going to take the money. This is true of Social Security also. Social Security has actually created an enormous downside for society now. So in the short term, it's great, right? You take a bunch of money that doesn't belong to you, you give it to a bunch of old people, they're happy. It didn't cost you that much money because it's the baby boom and there are a lot of people who are young and there are not that many people who are old. Then the baby boomers get old and now we're all screwed, right? People who are our age are never going to see our Social Security money. It's gone. We're never seeing it again. Kiss it goodbye. Right, so one problem is that older people did not have an incentive to save. So the savings rate actually went down after Social Security because you may as well spend your money, somebody else is going to pay for you when you're old. The second thing that happened is people stopped having kids as much. It actually had a market impact. Jonathan B. Lass of Weekly Standard has a very good book about this. It actually had a market impact on birth rates. Because one of the reasons to have a kid, not to be cynical about this, but it's true, is that historically, when you get old, who takes care of you? Your kids, right? I mean, that was the net cost. The net cost was that you were going to spend an enormous amount of money educating your children, bringing them up, keeping them safe, and then, when you got old, you weren't going to have to worry about it because little Billy was going to take care of you. Now Social Security takes care of you, so do you even have to have kids? And that's what's created this enormous bulge in the old population in the United States, and very little on the young side of the population in the United States. And because, as a society, we tend to abdicate to government what government is willing to take over, it's also created this immoral notion that the government's going to take care of all the old people, so we don't have to worry about it as a society. Social fabric doesn't matter anymore. So this is why I'm not in favor of socialism, and Social Security is a good example. I'm not in favor of it because it has, just like every other socialist program, it has a set of discrete beneficiaries, but diffuse victims. And the diffuse victims are much more common than the discrete beneficiaries, and they grow over time.
Thank you. Please take checks
Hey, I have two questions. One's political, the other one's much more important. In your opinion, what's the best course of action towards North Korea? And the second question, what is your prediction for the end of Game of Thrones season 7?
Okay. I too am much more fascinated with the second question. In fact, I'm very sad that I'll be signing books for you instead of watching it tonight. But I love all of you, but Game of Thrones, come on. As to the first question with North Korea, I wish I had a simple answer for you. I don't think there is one. Just like every other problem that festers in American foreign policy, this is a problem 50 years in the making, and it's not going to be solved overnight because they have 13,000 pieces of ordnance pointed at Seoul. Even if we were to try and take out the Kim regime, there's a good shot that if they thought they were going down, they'd start firing ordnance into Seoul, and there are millions of people in Seoul. You could easily see hundreds of 200,000 people being killed by the Kim regime as they go out in a final conflagration of glory. So the options become very limited. I think that what President Trump was actually threatening today is the right course of action. You actually do have to put some significant heavy economic pressure on China if you want them to oust the Kim regime. By the way, I think that is the best case for sanctions on China. I don't think that trade is a good reason for sanctions on China. I think that this is a good reason. The human rights reason is a much better reason for sanctions. So that seems to me the only real method that is available to us other than a very risky operation. Now, again, maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm not sitting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so maybe we have some military options on the table that are really fantastic. I don't know. If we do, we should use them. If we don't, then all that's available to us is the economic leverage that we have at our disposal. As far as Game of Thrones, so, now the good part. So, as far as what I think is going to happen at the end of Game of Thrones, so, I think, my business partner Jeremy Boring is fantastic at predicting these things, and he has a beautiful explanation of what's going to happen for the rest of the season. I don't want to spoil it for all the people who are watching, because I think he's right on in how it's going to go. I will just tell you what I think the end of the series is going to be. So I think the end of the series is going, I think Dany's going to die. I don't think she's going to survive. I think John will survive, but I don't think he's going to be king. I think what's going to end up happening is he's going to devolve power to a council led by Tyrion. I think that's where this is going, which is going to be really disappointing, because they've been fighting over the Iron Throne for 8 seasons, and we've all gotten into our monarchist, feel, and then they go to democracy. It's going to be like, God, have you seen democracy lately? But that's where I think that it's going to go.
Hi Ben, my name is Vikas Khan, and I'm a legal immigrant from Pakistan.
Well, thank you for coming. Here and to the country.
Thank you for having me, but now I identify myself only as American.
Well, thank you for that too.
And other than that, I'm a conservative Republican and Trump supporter, and people like you and President Trump made me switch sides, and I was an ex-Democrat, and now I'm a proud Republican.
Well, thank you.
I'm also a Muslim, and I'm very proud of my religion, and I call myself as a Reform Muslim who does not believe in any violent interpretation of the scripture. The problem which I face right now is like being on the right, I see there's an immense atmosphere of distrust, and then on the left there is immense atmosphere of denial and division actually. Yes. So how can we, like reform Muslims like me, who are out there, but we are in the closets. We want to come out.
Yeah.
We want to voice out. But whenever I tried to do that, especially in the last election, I was intimidated, harassed, and bullied by the liberal left. And I call them like liberal left fascists who just came after any different opinion or voice of dissent. So how can us reform Muslims who want to live under American Constitution, no other law, American Constitution, can come together and bring the two sides together and find some common ground and tell them like this is the reality and we are willing to live peacefully with the rest of the Americans as they are our fellow countrymen and brothers and sisters?
Yeah, so I mean,
thanks, Casey. I'm so glad I went after Lou.
so we on the right have an active obligation to provide a loudspeaker for people like you. We have an obligation to provide a loudspeaker for people like you. Because the only way the change is really going to take place in the Muslim world is if people like you are heard. Because one of the big problems is that, as you say, the denialism on the left about the nature of radical Islam and the extent to which it has actually infiltrated some major institutions. You know, the one Council on American Islamic Relations comes to mind, so does ISNA. These are major organizations that have a place with law enforcement. They're talking with the White House, both Republican and Democrat. There's denial that happens because these are the most prominent organizations in the country. And people who are reformists or moderates, they're two separate groups, I understand, but they both are, I think, fighting for the same end, which is a reform inside Islam that would do away with violent interpretations of Islam and tamp them down. And push Islam into a reformation, the likes of which every major religion has gone through. Judaism went through it, Christianity went through it, and it's time for Islam to go through it too. We on the right have to make an active attempt to push people like you into positions where you can speak clearly. So to that end, my email address is bshapiro@dailywire.com. And please email me. I'm happy to print any op-ed by you. I want everybody who's pushing this agenda to have a louder voice. I want everybody who's pushing this agenda to be given a voice, because on the right we have a tendency to say all of Islam is garbage, it's evil, it's terrible, we have to crush it. My view of religion, as a religious person, right, as a person who sits here wearing a funny hat, as a religious person, my view of holy documents is that they are open, obviously, to vast interpretation. There's a lot of violent stuff in the Old Testament as there is in the Quran, and it is up to people who, I think, properly interpret their religion to take over the future of that religion and to promulgate it. So I'll do everything I can to help.
Like what I'm hearing.
I hope everybody else
I'm agree with that.
does.
Thank you very much. Can you please tell me your email again?
B. Shapiro, first initial last name, @dailywire.com.
For those of you that think For those of you who think I cut in line, I did not. I'm over 50, and so we don't cut in line, and we usually don't destroy property. That's not something we do. We respect other people's property. But listen, I'm surprised nobody said anything about health care. I'm glad you talk fast, and so do I. Now, here in the United States, you have to have car insurance, okay? It is mandated by the government. I have a great plan. I pay $200 a month for 3 of us with 3 cars, and I have a $500 deductible. My insurance is great. They take care of me. I also know people that pay $25 or $50 a month. They got a $1,000 deductible, okay? Because there's so much competition and millions of people have to pay, the premiums are very low. With this new health care plan that I'm seeing is why they couldn't do that. The problem that I see is that the government is trying to get in things they're not supposed to be involved in, okay? It was never mandated for them to be involved this month with insurance. President Obama did this. Medicare, for those you don't know, are for people like me, 65 or older. Medi-Cal was meant for people that are disabled or poor, okay? They put all these healthy people on this plan, but they need to kick their butts off right now, okay, and require them to pay insurance. Now, for some reason, if I get into an accident, whatever, and I have insurance, my insurance company pays. For some reason, if they require you to have your insurance, they don't go after and penalize me or go to my taxes. What they do is say, listen, you didn't pay your $50, so now you got a $150,000 bill that you're going to pay for because you didn't do what you're supposed to do. So for this new Medicare plan, they've got to make this real simple. I can get this done in a week. Okay, first of all, they need to block grant this money to the states and say we're taking care of your Medicaid and Medicare payments that you have here for your patient. All the healthy people's getting off. pre-existing conditions. Stubbed toe is not a pre-existing condition. We're going to determine what that is. This is your money you use. It is not the federal government's job to take care of your opioid addiction, okay? That's your job as a state. You're not doing that in the inner cities, and I'm sick of these other cities coming in, and all of a sudden this drug abuse is a health problem, when for black people it's a crime, okay? We're not going to have that anymore. So this is your money. This is all you're going to have. You do what you will with it, okay? From there, we're going to go on, and so people do their own things and take care of it. From there, the government's going to get back to protecting the citizens.
I remember you, and I love you,
you know who I am.
I love your program, but if you would not read your 1,000-page counter to Obamacare, that'd be appreciated. Just get to the question mark. I agree with everything you're saying.
What can we do as far as getting information to these senators that seem to have no backbone, that let them know to get the government out of the healthcare? To do just simple things, simplify it, and they can have this done in a week. So what does that process look like? Or do I need to fly to Washington to get it done?
You fly to Washington, Miss Bang. Hang them all from trees.
Because I could handle my business like that if I need to.
So the answer is you need to fly to Washington to get things done.
Yeah, you do.
The problem is not a lack of solutions on healthcare. The problem is a lack of incentives on healthcare for politicians. Because again, the incentive is always not to tell people what they need to hear. It's always to tell people what they want to hear. And what people want to hear is, I'm going to make your healthcare free. I mean, listen, President Trump ran on the promise that he was basically going to cover everyone. Like, we all say that he ran on the promise of Obamacare repeal. That's true, but he also made the promise he was going to cover everybody's health insurance. He said everyone will be covered, right? And it'll be cheap, and it'll be the easiest thing in the world. You can't have all those things at once. That's not the way it works. So, I could give you my whole healthcare spiel, but I think that the lady did a pretty good job of it. So,
Roll Tide.
Hi Ben, first off I want to thank you for everything you do. You really helped me discover different politics outside of just the liberal left, forcing everyone to think a certain way. This week you were in front of the Congress discussing people being canceled when they want to speak out of campus. Do you really think that legislation is the way to go to help solve this problem?
So before I start, I see a lot of people are leaving because they want to get in line for Chang. I totally understand. It's fine with me. Okay, the second thing.
I still love you though.
I appreciate it too.
All right.
And I love that beer. Okay, so as far as the legislation that's being pushed in Wisconsin, for example, there has to be some sort of repercussion for administrators who refuse to abide by the law. We cannot have a situation where people break the laws in Berkeley or at University of Wisconsin or at Cal State LA, and the administrators do nothing, and then there's no repercussion, there's no ramification, there's no remedy that is available to people like me. And so what that piece of legislation in Wisconsin is an attempt to do is it ties the administrator's hands. It basically says, if someone commits a crime, that person will be punished as any person would be punished in this circumstance. It's sort of like mandatory minimum sentencing in law. So I don't see a huge problem with that. I would see a huge problem if they were actually restricting protests as opposed to interference with other people's free speech.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
Also, yesterday they did a censorship, as you can tell, I do words good. They asked this question, and I think I would love to hear your response. Is the responsibility to stop disruptive protesters or Antifa, does that responsibility lie with the school, or with the group who brought them in, or with the police?
It lies with the police. But the schools have very often been asking the police not to do anything.
All right.
Like, this has been a material problem.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, how's it going?
So you've spoken a lot about the unearned moral superiority of the left and its increasingly socialist policies in terms of economics specifically. I would like to hear what is the compassionate argument for more conservative policies in economics.
So the compassionate argument, so two things. One is that empathy is actually bad politics. So empathy makes you a worse person in politics because you empathize with the person who's right in front of you, but you forget about the other 100 people the policy actually impacts. There's a very good book about this right now. The compassionate answer is, if you want a policy that values both freedom and efficacy, you cannot have redistribution that violates people's rights. I don't think that the leftist argument is a moral one. I think it's actually a deeply immoral and non-compassionate one. The question for compassion is always compassionate to whom? Right? Compassionate to the person you're taking money from? Obviously not. It's compassionate to the person to whom you are giving money. But if you're undermining the entire principle of human sovereignty in the process, that's not compassionate to anyone, including the person who receives the money. That would basically be the argument.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Ben. So recently only started getting into like paying attention to politics a lot more about a little over a year or so ago.
It's been exciting times, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. And so when I wasn't paying attention, I felt like I was more on the left. Like I felt like I identified with a lot more of what they were saying because it seemed like
it's nice and it has puppies and
yeah,
rainbows
and
unicorn
so
parts.
when I had those opinions, I felt like it was a lot easier to have conversations with people. Even if they felt you disagreed with them, they thought you were still on their like side.
You're a nice person. When you're on the left, they assume you're a nice person.
Okay, so
I feel this will come up.
So I don't feel like any of my like beliefs changed, but by paying attention to you and like other ones like Steven Crowder or listening to other people who left the left like Dave Rubin, it like showed me that like it's not about what your ideas are half the time. It's just about what party you say you're with.
Yeah.
So now that I'm on the right, even though none of my beliefs have changed at all, what would be a good way to go about trying to get people to sit down and listen to understand that like I'm still the same person I was last year, I just view things in a different way than you now?
So I think that the first thing that you have to do is you have to determine whether the person that you're actually talking to is capable of hearing. I don't think every conversation is equally valuable. Like sometimes you're talking with somebody and it's clear, this person is not going to listen, this person doesn't care, this person wants to see me as bad because they have a stake, an emotional stake in seeing me as the bad guy.
Right.
Don't bother, don't waste your time. Then there's a group of people who have been told that it's okay morally to suggest that you're a bad person without evidence. And it's okay to say to this person, listen, you can't impute to me intents that are bad without any evidence of that. That makes you a bad person. Or if I came in here and I just said, you're a bad person, I don't even know you, that makes me a jerk. Or you don't get to do that. And I think that once people see that they're doing that, once you expose that that's what they're actually doing, a good person will say, you know what, I was doing that, maybe now we can have a conversation about where we disagree on policy. But you first have to get that out of the way, because you're right, this is the number one argument the left makes, is a character argument, right? You're a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe who hates people. You hate the poor and you want to kill them, right?
Yeah, I've heard that one a lot the last years.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is the fundamental argument of the left. It's a character argument, and the right's not used to it because we're used to making Paul Ryan, insurance adjuster arguments. And the first thing you have to do is you have to do away with the character arguments so you can actually get to making the substantive factual arguments.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Shapiro, you've argued in the past that healthcare is not a right. However, from a natural law's perspective, rights are that which is necessary for a man to achieve his natural ends. So it would seem that healthcare would be required for man to achieve his natural ends. Now, I don't think that requires a single-payer healthcare plan, because I think man has an internal capacity to actualize his ends by, say, paying a doctor. But I don't really think it's valid to...
So I don't actually agree with that definition of natural rights. It's a pretty Aristotelian definition of natural rights. I don't actually agree with that definition of natural rights. I believe that natural rights are those rights that exist to you in a state of nature. They do not exist and once you hit society, those rights do not amount to me taking your crap. So to make the distinction, I'm a believer in Lockean natural rights. I'm not a believer in Aristotelian natural rights.
Wow.
That's the very short story. That's the shorthand. Look it up on Wikipedia. But the basic idea is that natural rights, to me, are the rights that exist in the absence of compulsion to any other human being. And if you believe that your right to food means that you get to rob the farm next door, or your right to drink means that you get to seize the river that is not yours, then you're violating somebody else's natural rights, because again, then you have a serious problem of the commons as well as a violation of individual liberties.
Okay, thanks.
Hi Ben, my name is Jesse Alvarez, and I'm a millennial Latino dual citizen of the U.S. and Peru studying international relations at the University of San Diego. My first question is, so the U.S. currently has over 41 million native Spanish speakers and over 11.6 million bilingual speakers, probably the children of said native speakers, making our country the number 2 in the world in terms of population of Spanish speakers after only Mexico. California alone has over 15 million Spanish-speaking Latinos. And from having been born and raised in Latin America, I know that Latin Americans are more culturally conservative, especially socially conservative. But I've noticed that there's little to zero conservative media in Spanish in the United States, and I wonder why that is. Because I've noticed that in TV, radio, internet, there's actually nothing conservative, especially even in the most prominent best sources for conservative news, such as Daily Wire, Fox News, Breitbart. There's no Spanish tabs or Spanish subtitles or audio options, whatever. And most Spanish speakers, of course, just go to Telemundo, Univision. They're all far left, CNN, Español, and all those ones. So I'm just wondering why there is this absence of Spanish language conservative media outreach to such an important voting population. My second question is regarding the 14th Amendment, about people being born and naturalized in the U.S. becomes U.S. citizens. That's often used to justify the argument for anchor babies, what have you, and all that industry. And I'm just wondering, how can this interpretation of the law be considered valid when Senator Jacob Howard of Ohio, who worked with Abraham Lincoln to draft the 13th Amendment and later helped draft the 14th, said the following in a floor debate regarding the above clause he helped to write. Every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law a citizen of the U.S. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the U.S., but will include every other class of persons.
Yep.
So that was a great question. Citizenship removes all doubt as to what persons are or are not citizens of the United States.
Yeah. Okay, so first question first. A couple of years ago, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago, I was the keynote speaker at the California Republican Party convention, and the first thing that I said is everybody in this room needs to learn Spanish. I've been ardently attempting to learn Spanish and failing for a while, and I think that we have to do better outreach, not because English isn't a wonderful language and the language of the United States primarily not, and I believe everybody should learn English, but because the language of conservatism is universal and not restricted to the tongue that you speak. So, I think that if we could speak Spanish, we would be much better. That'd be great. We should all try to learn Spanish, just as everybody who's here should try to learn English. As far as the real question is a resource one. It's an uninvestigated market, meaning that if we were to spend $1 million to translate Daily Wire into Spanish, would there be enough of a market to support that? We don't know the answer to that. Also, I don't speak Spanish. It's not that good. So subtitling my show wouldn't make it as entertaining, I assume. That's actually a serious problem. There's just not enough conservatives who speak Spanish generally. As far as the second question about the 14th Amendment and the phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof," I'm in total agreement with your analysis of the 14th Amendment. I think it's a completely superfluous clause and subject to the jurisdiction thereof if it just means born or naturalized in the United States. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof means that you're not a citizen of another country at the time of birth, meaning that your parents are not citizens of another country at the time of birth. So if you're a citizen of Mexico and you come here and have a baby, your baby is a Mexican citizen. It is not an American citizen under the original interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Now, there have been, there's a Supreme Court case, I think it's called Wong Kim, that suggests the opposite, but I think that's a misinterpretation of the 14th Amendment.
Thank you so much. I'd love to do Spanish for Daily Wire, and as someone who studies law at the University of San Diego, I've been mulling over this for a long time, so thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
I think we have 2 minutes, and this is the last question. I'm sorry, guys. Come to the book signing later, and I'll try and answer your questions personally.
Hi, my name is Christopher. I'm from Los Angeles, and I have 2 questions. So one is, do you support or believe in amnesty for those who are illegal in the U.S.? And by that I mean those who haven't committed any crimes besides the notion that the only crime is you're here illegal. And let's say you're not on welfare, you're not on any support, you work, and you still have morals and values for the U.S.
I didn't have a chance. There's too many people.
Second question is,
That Asian guy right there with the Bernie shirt, I was right in front of them. This is the last question.
So from what I see, I like everything that I've seen about Austin Peterson. As far as the question about amnesty, I am not in favor of amnesty as a blanket matter for people who have not committed crimes. I think that people who are here illegally should be treated by exactly the same standard that we should treat legal immigrants. Meaning, are you of benefit? Are you of net benefit to the United States? Right? Are you going to work a job and not be on welfare, as you say? Are you going to be somebody who comes in and you're going to have, and you're pregnant and you're a single mother, or are you somebody who has a family and you're going to form a stable family relationship and you're going to be in addition to the United States? Now, the truth is, on immigration, I would be completely libertarian, except for basically 3 factors. One is citizenship and the ability to vote, because not all cultures are the same or equal. Second would be the law-abiding question, because you can't just have a free open border if you can't actually gauge who's coming into the country.
Right.
And the third one is the welfare question. If you have a welfare system that is open to people who come into the country, you have to obviously gauge who's coming into the country. So my view of people who are already here illegally is that if you are here and if you are of net benefit to the United States, then we should find a way for you to stay. And if you're of not benefit of the United States, we should kick you out. You should also have to wait in line for the citizenship until everybody.
I'm not okay with that. You broke the law breaking into the country.
That's it.
Nope.
It's bewildering to me that there's really any other solution than to treat people as individuals when it comes to immigration, instead saying we should either, according to the left, blanket amnesty everybody, or according to some people on the right, just throw everybody out of the country universally. I mean, there are people in the United States who've been here for 20 years working a job and are not on welfare and have kids who are in college.
No.
Like,
Sorry.
why would it be good for the U.S. to kick them out, other than, I guess, the
They need to go.
puerile
Sorry.
joy of kicking people out of the country?
No.
They're illegal.
Wow.
Right.
Holy crap. No wonder he doesn't like Trump.
I hear somebody, by the way, saying that they're illegal. I understand they're illegal. I also understand that if I were living across the border and I were living in a crap hole like Mexico currently is, I would also be trying with my family to hop that border and then lead a life.
So you're calling it an act of love, but it's not an act of love to undermine our laws, Ben. I'm sorry. We're a nation. We're a country, a nation of laws.
I'm not Jeb Bush. I am saying.
But you just said that it's an act.
I'm talking about the net benefit of the United States now. I'm not talking about net benefit to the family that's attempting to enter. I'm talking about the net benefit of the United States. If somebody comes here illegally and nobody knows about it, and now they are working for the Defense Department, they're a soldier in the U.S. military.
They shouldn't even be there.
The U.S. military because they came across the border illegally. I'm not going to.
They shouldn't have come in the country in the first place. We have to have a nation of laws.
Well, then you fill their spot in the military.
I don't have to do that. The point is they shouldn't be breaking our laws.
Go ahead.
Wow.
So you don't know what you're talking
I'm an incoming college
You're swimming in the pool that you don't
UCLA,
know.
and I was
I set him
wondering
off.
What we
I set
as
Ben Shapiro off today.
mostly liberal campuses can do to promote
Did you hear?
conservatism and get involved in politics without sacrificing our grades or getting into fights with our professors. And also, can I take a selfie with you?
So security will have to answer about the selfie, unfortunately. But as far as what you can do not give to professors, what I've always said is that use your best judgment. Some professors are willing to hear out opposing points of view. Some professors are not.
And notice how she did.
You have to gauge it.
And you notice how Ben doesn't talk about how they take jobs from others.
When it comes time for the test,
I wonder what
whatever
Chanel would have to say about that.
Don't let them destroy your academic career because you're mouthing off in a final.
That was
better to get a great grade, graduate, go to Harvard Law School, make lots of money, and then get their ass fired for discrimination by giving donations to the school. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Wow.
What did you like and what did you like about it? What do you think?
Okay. There was a great discussion he had about when a boycott is moral and when it's immoral. So I really liked how he explained that. I also loved how he fundamentally explained that socialism is wrong and why, and it's immoral, as well as it's not functional financially. Yeah. There was that. Outlining progressive taxation is wrong. It's
Thank
immoral.
you all for coming. Ben versus Jank has moved to the Civic Auditorium.
I didn't hear an answer about that.
So please clear this room. It will be fake news at 5:30.
So we have to all get out. We have to go get out and come back in again. But did you see that though? And then you see how he gave me a smart answer? He said, "Why don't you do it?" That's not the point. He broke the law.
Right. He didn't. That was a key.
It was. I don't understand why that's a problem for people. You broke our laws. We're getting out of here. I'm sorry. I gotta get something.
Is that crowd?
Okay.
So, what's it?
I'm losing. I'm cleaning up somebody's milk. I guess someone must Those aren't mine. This isn't mine.
So I have not gone to the exhibit hall yet. I know you spent yesterday there.
I've got to figure out what I want to do.
I kind of want to go through the exhibit hall. So, but I know you already went through there.
There's something about the guy that I'm starting to realize is a little. Hey. Give me a sec here. Super Jew, huh? The Superman was a Jewish cartoon. It was a Jewish graphic artist who did it. For example, they're super Jews too.
How's it going, dude? How are you? Sorry? No. Just supporter. That's all. How about yourself?
Awesome. Free speech, love it. Oh, you got that done in there? I got it done in there. I better go. I still want to get a shirt. And this is I remember. Okay. Let me get over to the side really quick. Okay. I got it.
Did it charge a lot?
Your battery. This has been great. Let me see where I am. Okay.
Where are you at?
Let me get the. Let me give this back to you right now.
Check this out.
I want to, well, I'm at 3%. I'm almost done, so I want to wrap this up really quick. So, this is the first time I found myself being in emphatic disagreement with somebody. I can't get a good light. Sorry if I can't see you guys. I've become a little more disenchanted with Ben Shapiro now. For someone to be so emphatically never Trump just doesn't make sense to me. Politics is about choices. Donald Trump was the best choice out of the four, whether you trusted him or not, and he's actually demonstrated himself more trustworthy. How I went after him on the immigration issue, I think, is really started kind of telling. He kind of mocked me and said, well, then you serve in the military. That's not the point. The point is that people shouldn't even be breaking into our country illegally, and they shouldn't be getting into any facets or elements of our government. There's nothing immoral or wrong to have a blanket decision. If you're in this country illegally, you need to go. So I just find that kind of fascinating. That's how he responded. I'm not sure what to think of that. But he got testy, and he responded to it. I thought that was interesting. So I've kind of drawn blood with a lot of leftists and some people on the right. But I just cashed it up with this. So this was what we did for Ben Shapiro. I'll be back later. Thank you so much for following.